Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the Deep Three podcast. I am your host, the one, the only Salmon himself, with, of course, my man KOB and the return of Jay Murphy. What is good, my guys?
Hey, I'm feeling good. Happy to be back. I got this Clippers Phoenix game on my other screen, so splitting attention, ready for takes at any moment. But feeling good.
How's it going, Kevin? How's it going?
It's good. It's good. Sad the Clippers are still in the playoffs, but that's how it goes.
Hey, but you know what's good? We saw yesterday's results. That's all I gotta say. That's all I gotta say before we jump in. So let's just get into it, boys. NBA updates. Big one from a couple days ago. Classic Boston tactic right here. Get rid of your broken point guard, dump him somewhere else so that they'll be out of the league in a couple of years. Kemba Walker no longer a Celtic. I think it was made very clear that there was already some tensions going on with him in front office, and especially when the former head coach becomes the VP of operations, what do you want to call it at this point? It just means that he knows you too well, and he knows all your weaknesses, and he knows he's going to flip you instantly in a heartbeat. Kemba Walker was traded to OKC along with the first round pick for this year as a salary dump, basically for Al Horford, Moses Brown, and I believe a second round pick. What are we vibing about this? Is this just classic Boston? Is this anyone winning from this?
I kind of I'll be honest, I think this is fine. Because I think that this will solve one of their problems, which is that Boston just hasn't had very competent bigs since Al Horford left, so why not bring him back? And then also they got, I think the combination of Al Horford if they keep him, and then Robert Williams, who's shown some real flashes this year, and then Moses Brown, who also has shown some pretty cool flashes. I think that gives them probably the best big man rotation they've had in a bit. Granted, Al Horford I know is right about washed. He's just ready to knock on that door. But I don't hate it. And they weren't going to keep Kemba, so I think this is probably the best they could have gotten for him, because Kemba's also pretty washed now.
Dang, would we say he's the washed king now, Kevin? I mean, with Blake Griffin's resurgence as Brooklyn Net, I mean, someone else got to take the crown at this point.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I originally thought this trade was much worse than I'm coming around to think it is now. I think, like you said, Sam, I think it was just a salary dump, and it kind of benefits the Celtics, especially to just get rid of that Kemba contract, get him off the team. I don't think they needed to get Al Horford, really. I think, like John said, he's really knocking on that door of retirement soon. But I'm interested to see Moses Brown. I think he could be good on that team, depending on how he grows. But I think the biggest thing is OKC now has 5 first-round picks. That's scary. That Sam Presti is a gangster.
I mean, honestly, at this point, he might be the new Danny Ainge in terms of just getting first-round picks. And unlike Danny Ainge, they're at least on the brink of success in terms of any big moves. Unlike every ESPN report saying that Celtics are the leader for any player and then not getting the player at all. Maybe it helped them out. Maybe the whole Aaron Gordon race was actually not worth it for them in the long run. But for both teams, yeah.
But yeah, I also think it's the first of there's going to be more moves to come. Yeah, they will get another playmaker probably. Yeah.
Yeah, and I just think it was just really surprising that it happened still during the season. You don't really see these kind of moves, and it just seemed like Brad Stevens was just so eager to get rid of this. He was just waiting for anyone to bite. And of course, we all knew that the team with 36 first-round picks was willing to bite on something like this, just because they have to meet the salary cap restriction, like a minimum at this point, with at least $50 million on roster. I guess with that being said, on both sides, Kevin, who do you think will be the next player to be traded? Either OKC and or Boston Celtics?
I think the Celtics are probably, like John said, they're probably going to make another move, probably a bigger move. I'm I don't want to say they're going to trade Jalen, but I think they got to trade someone a bigger name that is actually has some value to trade. Like Kemba, the Kemba trade was a salary dump. It wasn't to get the next All Star on their team. I don't think they have that much faith in Moses Brown. If they do, that might be a little misguided. So I think they really want to get someone who they wanted Kemba to be on their team, and I think that might involve trading Jalen.
Okay, interesting. John, do you think SGA is on the trading block at some point? Is he like a hidden trade block right now?
I don't think so. I think SGA is the only person who is like very safe on that team. Like it goes like SGA, and then like a few blocks lower, it's like Lou Dort, and then like no one else is like even like remotely safe on that team. But I'm sure they'll try to get rid of Kemba just like they did with Al Horford and Chris Paul, where they'll let him try to get a little value this year, and then they'll trade him wherever he wants to go if they can. Yeah, but I think SGA is going to be around for a while, especially because he's just kind of exactly the player that you want on your team. So.
Okay, I feel you. A place not to be right now, gentlemen, is Dallas at this point. Everyone's jumping ship. You know, it just seems like it's out of nowhere. Maybe it wasn't. It really seems. I feel like Kristaps Porzingis was the real leaker of this entire story. I was telling you guys, Athletic is going crazy, dropping bombs left and right. And then we just see the report. You know, I'm taking a shower after a workout, and I'm just like hearing a bow. I was like, what happened now? I literally jumped out of the shower to read this because I've been waiting for this moment. Rick Carlisle resigned. Still 2 years left on his contract from the Dallas Mavericks as head coach. You know, this is just a few days after their GM Donnie Nelson also resigned, but realistically was fired. Might have been with Mark Cuban, might have been with more issues. I think the whole underlying issue is their whole metrics guy and Luka saying that's dumb. I just played the game like the best player ever. Why would you ever tell me how to actually play my game? Are we seeing turmoil in Dallas? Luka Doncic fan, number one.
Woo! Yeah, I mean, it's pretty interesting over there right now. I think that, you know, I want what's best for Luka. I want to see his career go as well as it possibly can. So, look, he's going to sign for $200 million. You don't just leave that on the table after your rookie contract. He's gonna be there for at least the next few years before he tries to force out anything. In that time, they need to figure out what he needs, and I think it's a coach kind of like Ty Lue, like someone who is sneakily. Ty Lue is actually like a great coach. It gets like he doesn't get the respect for it because he's had LeBron and then Kawhi, but like sneakily he's really good and also really good at working with superstars, making them feel heard and valued.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of coach Luka needs. But yeah, this is all pretty brutal, and they need to figure it out before they make him mad. Because like, if you lose Luka Doncic, like your franchise is going to be like in the gutter for probably a really long time. There's not a lot of guys like that just come around. So like, you know, like they got to figure it out. It was all like very KP doesn't you know, I'm sure that he's frustrated, but everyone also is frustrated with you, KP, like
Yeah, no, I agree. You know, I think obviously Luka Doncic comes from winning culture, just winning championship after championship after championship since he's like 14 years old. And we see with his skill set that no matter what shape he's in, even if he's 300 pounds, you can still drain a 1-footer, 3-pointer casually. And you can't really question it at this point. You know, the guy's got probably the most fluid game out of any player I've seen in a long time. With that being said, if I'm the Dallas Mavericks, do I get do we do a LeBron thing where I only ask Luka what do you need from him, or do you think as an organization you know what's best to bring in?
I think they gotta take a lesson from the Milwaukee Bucks. I think they gotta look at what Milwaukee did for Giannis. They saw Giannis's talent. They did everything they could to build a team around him, uh, have a good coach for him, things like that. And then when things weren't working, they were very quick to change things. They took out a coach. They put in a new coach. They took out like Eric Bledsoe. They put in Drew Holiday. They got him some big guys, like stuff like that. That it looked like Milwaukee was. I don't know if they were asking Giannis for his opinion, and I don't know if the Mavs should do that with Luka. But I think that front office was constantly changing their strategy when something didn't work, and I haven't quite seen that from the Mavs yet. So I think they need to start moving some pieces around and start figuring out how to actually build a team around Luka, because so far it hasn't worked, and you should be able to do that with someone who's that talented.
I agree, and I think they've just been riding the highs of just how talented the player is. But I mean, we all know that at the end of the day, as much as we say like LeBron did carry, you can carry a team so far, but as much as I bash it, like John mentions previously, Kyrie Irving, he made the shot, and that's what helped carry this Cavs team to a title. You always need that second factor, and that was what Porzingis was supposed to be. It's clear that maybe it's still the injury, and maybe it's this point, maybe it's his morale, and maybe just him being the center point in a really big market of like the New York Knicks, where he was loved, to be honest. Maybe the organization didn't appreciate as much, but I mean, everyone knows him as a unicorn. But to me, it seems like the horn is gone at this point, and he's just by himself in a corner, trying to shoot a corner three, but probably hitting the side of the backboard at this point. I'm excited because I like Dallas just being in pain. This is great. To be honest, I really don't like Luka in the situation. I'm just telling you, we got a great coach in San Antonio, Luka. Forced your way out. KP did it. He can't do it anymore. But it's your time, kid. 200 mil in the bag. We got you. We have no one. We have no one on roster. We're good. I'll take 10 point guards right now, including yourself. So, I'm riding high tides. Great future. If not, let's send to the Knicks. We'll just flip with KP. Send to the Knicks. Tom Thibodeau. We'll just tough love and MVP right there that next season. All right. Speaking about more bad news, just New Orleans, just the city itself. It's just a bad place to be. No, I'm just kidding. But the organization in very confusing waters. Lots of high hopes in terms of a youthful team, but obviously not living up to expectations. They let go Stan Van Gundy. Questionable move. I know it's a hit or miss, honestly. Reminds me similar of a Tom Thibodeau, but just didn't resonate with this roster. It's been apparently open about Zion's family, expressing concern with how the organization is going. I mean, to be honest, it is year 2, and realistically, it's like 1.25 for Zion, just not even playing. But I think just having in your 2 years 2 different coaches and already moving on to a third one, it does not look good for the organization. I think David Griffin is not really showing that concern necessarily, but luckily there are a lot of good people in this market in terms of coaching that could help with this situation. But with that being said, John, do you think Zion is actually wanting out, or do you think this is just, people outside of him, or do you think it's a little bit of both?
I think it's probably more just people outside of him. It did seem like everyone was I think like you said, like it seemed like Stan didn't really resonate with them as a roster, and that happens. So I'm sure he's like frustrated right now, but I don't think that Zion's going to force his way out of New Orleans anytime soon. He's such a it just doesn't seem like who he is, and also it just doesn't happen this early in people's careers. I don't think it's literally ever happened. So I think that however, all 5 New Orleans Pelicans fans, don't worry, Zion is not going anywhere yet, but they have a lot to figure out. Clearly, everyone thought this team would be better than it was. So there's a lot to learn, a lot to adjust with this roster. probably need a different second guy than Brandon Ingram. Sam, I think ultimately that you are right that fit is just not. It's just not the best fit. It seems like so. There's work to be done. I wouldn't say similar to Luka. I wouldn't panic if you're a fan of these teams. These guys are going to stick around for at least another amount of time into their second contract because that's just how it always goes. But it's serious. Like you got to make your stars happy. That's what we're learning. You just need to.
No, exactly. And I mean, if you're a New Orleans fan, you would be concerned because it was voted most likely that your team will be moved.
Yeah.
Next seasons, it doesn't seem like many teams are that interested. I guess maybe, which is surprising, having like a generational player, a generational face of an organization, and just people even considering them moving. I think we all anticipate this team being really fun to watch and stuff like that. But, a little concerning that the ownership doesn't really care as much and they're willing to let this team move.
It seems like no one is a fan of the Pelicans. And it honestly, I think that the league's position maybe is we're not going to try to move this team. We'd rather have new teams. They should absolutely move this team, though, because it doesn't seem like New Orleans is embracing them. Everything you read about New Orleans is they're just not a basketball town. This isn't their priority. And that's fine. But, don't let – I think that's something that will drive Zion away, too, on top of how, bad the organization has been and is. It's that just, no one fucking cares there. So he wants to probably play basketball where people are going to be hyped. Like in Seattle, which would be a great place to move this team, of course. But, yeah.
No, I agree. I mean, New Orleans been riding the high since Drew Brees won a fucking Super Bowl. You gotta move on, I don't want to be that guy. I'm just saying several hurricanes have happened since then, and you haven't won a title. I'm just saying. I know we're gonna lose probably 2 fans off of this, but I'm just being real. Look, keep your people happy. Only way to keep them happy is find owners that care. Unless you're the Knicks, where you can just have an absolute moron of an owner and, just have the bag and you're good, You can't move the Knicks out of New York. You're good. You're set for life. Kevin, with all of this drama and rumor happening, are we having some Kawhi Leonard blues happening right now? Are we going to see 2-3 years if it's just Pelicans not making the playoffs again just because it's a tough conference overall? Do we see Zion saying, I'll take the qualifying offer and then I'll explore my options as an unrestricted free agent?
I think that's definitely a possibility, but I think, like John said, I don't think we're gonna see that right away. I think that's still a couple of years off. I think for now, Zion kind of wants to keep his head down, work really hard at making this team good, and hope that they improve. And I think they can. They have a lot of good tools. I still think Lonzo's really shown himself this year when he's playing on point. He is very good. Although he's not quite as consistent as we want to see, but I think if they can kind of swap out Brandon Ingram for someone else that can be that other scoring guy on their team, I think they have a lot of potential. But if they're not going to do that, I think we are going to see almost exactly that of Zion kind of waiting and then exploring his options a little bit and testing the waters of other places and seeing what he can get.
No, I agree. It was interesting because I did hear a rumor that prior to trade deadline that Lonzo Ball, we all knew Lonzo Ball was quote unquote probably available, just because he didn't sign the extension. But it was apparently rumored that they did not trade him because I think it was almost every player on the roster said do not even think about trading Lonzo at this point. And I think we saw that he is probably in a way he's kind of the glue piece for this. And, one of the most true point guards. Some people are comparing it almost generational. I wouldn't say that, but I think he could be one of the greatest passers to ever play the game. I think he could do that with the right roster and with a Zion. What else could go wrong at this point? That's what Zion needs. He needs someone that can facilitate the ball to him. So we'll have to see. Last point here is will Luka and Zion finish their careers with their current teams? And then B, if not, where would you think they would be the best fit?
I think Luka is more likely to than Zion is, just because of the market. I think at some point, somewhere, Zion will be drawn elsewhere. But, you know, I just want, like, what I want for Zion, if he leaves the Pelicans, would be to, like, team up with someone like LaMelo Ball or, like, Trae Young or, you know, like, one of those, like playmaking wizards that it would just be, like, the most terrifying team up possible. Luka Doncic, like, you know, like, it would be so much fun to watch Zion play with someone like that. We get a taste of it with him with Lonzo, but just, like, imagine with, like, the superstar version of that. For Luka, again, it would be great if him and Zion actually ended up together, because what I want to see for Luka is to get, like, one of those just dominant bigs that he could team up with. You know, like, we were all, mostly me, really hyped about the idea of, like, Giannis joining up with Luka before he re-signed his contract.
Mhm.
I mean, wherever Luka ends up in his future, I would love to see him with a big like that. Hard to come by, but, like, it would be perfect. Or someone like Devin Booker, someone who can, like, play off the ball. That would be a good enough scorer and creator that Luka could trust him to actually, like, give him the ball sometimes, because that's what he needs as well, is, like, someone he can really trust in those situations. But yeah, I would say Luka more likely to be a Maverick long term than Zion, probably.
Okay.
Yes.
Ken, what you thinking?
I agree 100%. I think it also kind of comes down to what the organizations think about the players, and I think the Mavs are a lot more likely to try and build the team around Luka than the Pelicans trying to do everything they can to build a team around Zion. I think they've kind of tried that, but it doesn't look like they're trying as much as they can or should, and I think they'll end up probably not being too mad at trading Zion, because at some point, if they trade him, then they could get a lot from him if that happens, or if he just dips at his contract. I don't know, but I don't know. I think, like John said, I think at the end of the day, Luka has a lot more potential to stay, and I don't see Zion staying in New Orleans for a long time.
Mhm.
Yeah. And I don't even think it's like their kid, because I think that, like, personality-wise, I think Luka's, like, definitely more of, like, a diva than Zion is.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Zion seems like a pretty chill guy, honestly. Like, he seems like a pretty cool dude. Luka definitely, like, has that, like, much more of a fiery, like, personality, it seems like. That would make sense for him to want to get out. I just think that the Mavericks as an organization have at least proven once that they can keep a star for a really long time. And the Pelicans have lost both Chris Paul and Anthony Davis. So it's just like, I just don't have a lot of faith in that organization to keep Zion around long.
Yeah, and I think it comes down to also the maturity of the player. Like, I don't know what it is, and I know, like, yes, he is. They're both young, but there's just a sense because of Luka's seniority in the game itself. It just seems like he just has that composure. And I know we all kind of joke about his, like, complaining and, like you said, the diva attitude he has with the refs and everything, but it does already seem like he has that repertoire of just being like, hey, you have to talk to me. You got to give me my calls now. Whereas, like you said, Zion's very chill. And I don't know if he will grow into that, like superstar personality. I know he has the game to do so, and, like, he'll let the game talk. But, maybe it's someone that rolls in silence, like a Kawhi Leonard is what I'm imagining at this point. But we all know what Kawhi did. He left my boys hanging, drifting in the sea by himself, and now he's resting every game possible because his knees can't survive. Thanks, Zaza. With that being said, let's talk about the pain. Kawhi Leonard, this is a little bit older news as of now, but he suffered his ACL sprain, ACL injury, I believe game 4, and he sat out game 5 and 6 against the Utah Jazz. And this Clippers team, I think, proved us, like, drastically wrong. Who is playoff P at this point? It might go to Porzingis at this point, but Kevin.
It honestly might have to be playoff pandemic Porzingis.
Porzingis at this moment, but Kevin, We got to ask the question because it looks like it's pointed directly towards you. Is it time? Serge Ibaka is even asking for you. All right. Is it time to apologize to Sir Paul George?
Let's see what happens with this Sun series. Right now, not going great. After game one, we'll preview. Listen, he's doing great. I will give him that, especially in Kawhi's absence. But you got to give some credit to the rest of that team at the same time. Terrence Mann specifically. I mean, obviously, Mann popped off in that game, and when he scored 39 points in like 36 minutes or something like that. Uh, ridiculous. That'll go down in the history books, I think. But yeah, Paul George is playing well. You gotta give him respect for that. But I'm still gonna shit on him until they make it to the finals. If they make it to the finals, I will do a full apology.
Mm-hmm.
Now
Okay.
I'm doing a fast like, congrats, Paul George. You're okay.
Wow, that's generous.
Paul George. Okay, I'm gonna be honest. I don't know. Like, after like what he's been really good at these playoffs. Like pretty much the whole way through. He's had like I think like 2 bad games maybe tonight or today. So we'll talk about it in a sec. They lost to the Suns. We'll touch on that more, but it was really, really close. And like Paul George had 34 points and carried them like without Kawhi. I think that like Paul George deserves some respect for this postseason run, unless he has like an absolutely shitty Western Conference Finals, which, you know, he's off to a great start, even though they lost. But I just think that Paul George, he's playing really good. And for some reason, so is Reggie Jackson. And like, it's just the Clippers. The Clippers are just really interesting right now. But we'll talk about, I guess, without Kawhi, I don't think they have a chance.
I mean, let's just jump into it. We'll finish up with game 6. The Terrence Mann show is what we should just call it at this point. 39 points. Mann seemed like a vet at this point. I mean, the posters, straight face, you know, honestly reminded me. It's just murder at this point. I mean, it's a classic LA situation, right? Just murder every night at this point. But the Utah Jazz had 0 answers for this man. The supposed #1 defense in the NBA could not stop a guy who did not even play in the first round, basically, stepped up and then showed the Jazz who they thought they were, basically, at this point. I heard an interesting story about how he almost missed the draft combine because his phone battery almost died, or his phone battery was drained out, and I was like, shit, you know, this guy could be in a different situation. But, man, this guy just seemed really composed when he played this game, and genuinely there's no answer because what can you expect? To be honest, if I'm the Jazz, like, to me, I'd say he's no different than like a Royce O'Neal at that point, just because I didn't know what his gameplay was. But I mean, it seems like this. I don't think he's just a one and done. I think this guy could actually have serious potential. You know, I don't know if he's, you know, I'm not saying he's superstar talent, I'm not saying he's all-star talent, but I mean, he's showing that he can play the game well, and he can play the game well at the bigger stage. Kevin, thoughts on Terrence Mann, his existence, his life story? You know, what are you feeling about Terrence Mann and the future with the Clippers?
I think you said it well. I think he showed the potential to play the game at a high level, at the game's highest level. And I think that means a lot for him moving forward. I think he'll get a lot more attention from other teams in the future too, after just that one game. But I think we still need to kind of see more of him to know if that was a almost insanity moment of like, you have this unbelievable history book game, and you continue to do that on a semi-regular basis, like put up points like that. Maybe you don't have to put up the 39 points or whatever he did, but can he put up 20 points a game? Can he even continue to play 30 minutes a game? Are they going to keep starting him? Like, I don't know. I am interested to watch his career more. and I think he's young enough where it'll be fun to watch. Like I am very excited to see how he progresses as a player, and I think it'll be. I think he has the potential to be a really probably an all-star at some point.
Wow. Okay. High praises. High praises. I mean, also to John's point, I think we actually seen Tyronn Lue actually construct this roster knowing who have to play, who has to play. And he realized that only 7 players can play against this Jazz roster. He's going to make everyone play 40 minutes at this point, and it worked out. Right? I mean, he made it very clear that, um, I'm sorry. I don't like the excuses they're making that Donovan Mitchell was still injured. I'm sorry. If Donovan Mitchell doesn't say he's injured, don't make that excuse. Jazz fans, you played yourself. You lost to a Clippers team that lost their best player for the 2 games, who even chose not to play because he was that confident in his team beating you guys. Almost embarrassing. Rudy Gobert was sending you to France. I'll see you in the Olympics very soon. But let's jump into game 1 against the Suns. John, you want to give us a quick recap?
Yeah, so this game was like really, really tight. It was I think it ended up at like 118 to 114 or something, or 119, 114, maybe. But yeah, this series looks like it's going to be really good, though it might get really tough. Well, if Chris Paul comes back soon, I think it'll be a wrap actually pretty quick. But Devin Booker, 40 points, 11 assists, 13 rebounds. He's, I think, the 4th ever 40-point triple-double in the playoffs. First 2 were Oscar Robertson. 3rd one was Luka Doncic. Give Book his flowers. That's some superstar shit. PG, 34 points, 5 assists, 4 rebounds. Reggie Jackson, I think, is the only other person that scored over 20 points for them. Terrence Mann had like 8 points tonight. And that's the thing with him. He's still young. He's figured it out. He's not going to have another 39-point game in the playoffs for at least a while, I'm sure. But he's, it'll be really interesting for them this series. It looks like they weren't able to play DeAndre Ayton off the court like they did Rudy Gobert. So that's going to be a huge problem for the Clippers. DeAndre Ayton, I mean, if you're the Suns, you got to be feeling pretty okay, at least about taking Ayton where you did in the draft, picking him first, because though I still believe no matter what, you want Luka Doncic more because he's a super duper star, generational. DeAndre Ayton has taken such a leap in these playoffs that it's like, okay, it's worth it. Like defensively, he's their anchor. He's been awesome. Offensively, he keeps putting up stat lines where he misses 2 shots a night. And he's just been so good. And I think might be when Chris Paul comes back, I think the Suns are going to the finals, I think, is what is it. Suns are going to the finals if Chris Paul comes back soon, and if Kawhi can't come back, and with that ACL injury he has, it's a sprain, I think. It's questionable. But, man, this could be a fun series if the games are going to be like this one was. I love the Suns team, man. They're really, really good. They're really good.
No, I agree. I mean, whoever thought? I mean, I know I was listening to some older podcasts. I mean, I know I was roasting the Suns, Kevin. I was enjoying that hypeness about the washed. Actually, we really think that Chris Paul was really washed. We've been saying that for 2-3 years after he got the hamstring injuries, and I've proven us wrong. I mean, he was 4th in MVP race basically, which is ridiculous to hear from. You think a LeBron would be in this race, and he's not in it at all. But genuinely impressed by this Suns roster. Genuinely impressed by Ayton. This is gonna be really weird seeing that Ayton and Trae Young could be making it to conference finals. At this point, someone not Luka Doncic not making it. Just saying, rubbing it in a little bit. But
it's true.
With that being said, Kevin, your boy Chris Paul, obviously not here. With a little bit of a COVID situation. Not really sure how that works up, but Adam Silver working on the inside deal about, hey, we need to get him in here because Nets are out. We need people to watch these series now because they're awesome market at this point. Chris Paul most likely going to come back next game. Do you think that's going to create a bigger gap between the Clippers and Suns without Kawhi Leonard?
I definitely do. I mean, obviously, I think the biggest thing we saw from game one is Booker pop off. I mean, he's been playing super well all throughout the playoffs, which I think he's probably my favorite person to watch in this current playoff year because I think we saw a glimpse of him last year in the bubble, and then they still didn't make it even after he won all those games.
Mhm.
But now we're seeing Booker at his full potential, putting up that 40-point triple double. Like, that's awesome. And I think as soon as Chris Paul gets back, Chris Paul just makes everyone on that team better. And that's what a perfect point guard should do, ideally. And so I think we're going to see, like, exactly like you said, that gap between the two, the kind of skill gap, just increase more and more. If Kawhi was there, I still think there'd be a pretty big gap. I think the Suns are just the better team overall. I really do. I mean, I, I think, like you said, Ayton is that perfect anchor defensively. Booker is unstoppable on offense. And if they get Chris Paul back, that's just both ends of the court. He adds so much to everyone who's on the court with him. So I have a really hard time seeing the Clippers do much against the Suns team.
Mhm. No, I agree. I mean, I think they have the perfect mix of offense defense where they have um, Chris Paul as a pure facilitator, really, at this point. I mean, he got the mid range, who has the most beautiful mid range probably in the NBA now as a guard. Like,
Yeah.
it's a guaranteed make at this point. I went to game three of the Suns Nuggets series, and you just can't stop him. I mean, if he keeps going and going and going, he's going to drop 10 points on you easily just from there. Funny story was that I saw this guy like get into an argument with all the police and stuff, and then I realized it was the Suns and Four guy. I was right next to him the whole time. I saw him outside, and I was like, oh my god, why is this guy in trouble? And he was fighting fans and stuff. And I was like, that's fucked up. But then I was like, he's Suns and Four, so um, before we jump into the conference finals predictions, I think are we all unanimously saying Suns and Four? Because I'm feeling Suns and Four.
I Suns in 5. I think.
That's fine. Hey, one hand still. It's one hand. It's all good. Kevin, Suns and Four.
Suns and four. So
Suns and
if
four.
if the Clippers can't win when the Suns don't have Chris Paul, there's no way they're gonna win when the Suns do have Chris Paul.
Okay. All right. All right, well, let's get into the real game. All right, let's get into the real game. We all the madness. I was at Kevin's place watching this game. Bucks, Nets. I've been anti-Nets, to be honest, just because it's a pure super team. I gotta be anti them. I did love the Warriors situation because it's a little bit natural, minus Kevin Durant, but um, still fun to watch. I mean, probably one of the best game sevens we've ever seen. I think it actually might be in a way, like minus the unclutchness from every player in the last few seconds.
Everyone was gassed in overtime.
It was ridiculous. I want to say first up, MVP Brooke Lopez, 2 blocks on Kevin Durant's layup, which were probably game changing at this point. Like, I mean, unreal. It was just very clean, hyped up. I scared Kevin's dog many times while he was napping, and it was just a fun game overall until like overtime where everyone was going 1 for 8 on both sides. Overall takes on just the game itself. What are you guys thinking?
Incredible. I mean, just legitimately incredible. I don't want to hear like if you must get it off, you can, but I don't accept any KD slander.
Mm-hmm.
He had an all-time great playoff run, coming off of an Achilles injury. This man's a legend. As Giannis said, he's the best player in basketball, and Giannis beat him. And Chris Middleton, he had some big shots. Drew Holiday was a pest all game. Like, the Bucks are good, and I hope they can take advantage of this window because I think next year Brooklyn is going to come back and be like pretty unstoppable. They're going to load up the bottom half of their roster with a bunch of ring chasing vets, and they're just going to be have healthy big three. It's over after that, I think. So really happy for Giannis. As much as I enjoy watching KD play and would have loved to see more of it. This was an incredible game. I have like no complaints. Coach Bud, Giannis saved his fucking job, man. Because Coach Bud is just Coach Bud is just not very good in the playoffs. I think this was all Giannis and Chris Middleton saving the day, and Brook Lopez. Like, Coach Bud, you're lucky, I think.
Agreed. I mean, just once again, shout out to KD because I mean, back to back full games. He played the entire game, both games. Yeah. Unreal performance. Only one really showing up. I know James Harden had the injury, and we saw even with like 22 points he had. I mean, he wasn't shooting well at all. It was the free throws he was getting, about 12 free throws. So it was definitely not his game. And it came down to the end. It came down to everyone just saying defer to KD because he's the one who's feeling it right now, and he was feeling it. Even he blamed his fucking feet because he said they're too fucking big, and that's what really cost him from sending this team home.
That was crazy. Dude, Joe Harris owes everyone an apology. Joe Harris should actually have to transfer all of his contract over to Blake Griffin, who had a pretty solid game. They should have to swap their contract for this season because of how bad Joe Harris was in the playoffs. And in this series on particular, unforgivably bad. He was cold as hell.
I agree. And I just like to say that, like, as much as I dislike the super team of the Nets, I did enjoy how they played. And I think it's just more of the excitement of Kevin Durant's back, and it seemed like he never left. Because honestly, backstep, I think he did leave when he went to the Warriors because I feel like we didn't hear him as much because there was just the Curry face that we had with the Warriors. But this reminded me of OKC Kevin Durant. I just remember, I think it was like 2013 or 2014 where he had the game winner against Dallas on opening day on TNT. Signature moment. You can't do that. That's what it reminded me of with the classic Kevin Durant fadeaway for three. And I think just seeing that these players are willing to change too, even at Kyrie Irving, who's accepting the shooting guard role, that's going to be really fun. And James Harden become the true point guard, way more entertaining in my opinion. None of us like the step back, pump fake foul, which he was doing often this game, but I think we actually appreciate his skill set more and just how strong he is. This dude is big. Like he was pushing Giannis out. He's like, you can't get past me. Man's been drinking a lot of smoothies. I think that's what happened in 2 weeks. Kevin, we saw Chris Middleton, Drew Holiday have horrendous games. I think in the fourth quarter, before he started popping off, Drew Holiday was 3 for 18.
Yep.
Which is horrendous. And I think like Chris Middleton was like 5 for 19 or 5 for 20. Obviously all good shots, just not feeling it. Riding the backs of Giannis for a bit, but thoughts on their clutch 2 minutes, in in the final fourth quarter and in overtime.
That's what I was gonna say. Impressed me the most about this Bucks team. Every single person on that team, on that starting five, made clutch plays. I think Brook Lopez's blocks, like he had those two, I think both in the fourth quarter against KD that were super, super clutch. Drew Holiday, he was coming in 3 for 18 or 3 for 15 or whatever, and then just was making a couple threes that they needed to make when they were down by like 2 points or so. He would make a three, and that would be just enough to give them some momentum and keep moving. Same with Chris Middleton, like making those clutch shots. He made that one like fadeaway jumper when he was going in that was like perfect at the last minute. And Giannis had so many of those driving layups where there's absolutely no reason he should make the basket, and he does, and he gets the and one, and then he actually makes the free throw for once, and it was just something to see. And that was the biggest differentiator because you saw James Harden make a lot of those shots that he should have made, but they were at a clutch, high-pressure situation, and he just missed. And it was just he was making some of those mistakes that every time when the Bucks had those opportunities, they converted, whereas I think the Nets weren't as clutch in those situations. Besides KD, that's the exception, obviously. Like that last basket to send it into overtime, stupid. If his feet were one size smaller, that probably would be a different story. But it was unbelievable.
Agreed. And I mean, like, I know there should have been a lot more fouls called, but PJ Tucker on KD, honestly, really entertaining. I really like the rest, like, letting them play. I mean, I know, like, a lot of them were for sure fouled. They didn't call, but I did appreciate the aggression. I liked all the switches because I think they knew that if Giannis was guarding KD, Giannis would be fouled out of the game. But like Chris Middleton and even Drew Holiday on KD, just the physique of them was quite impressive. Like they actually made KD work. KD sweating like crazy. They made KD play every minute of the game. And I know Kyrie was injured, so he did have to play a lot of those minutes. But I mean, they made KD work. KD was putting in the work. Just came down really to an air ball that was contested.
And,
Drew Holiday, I mean, like
yeah.
it was just good defense. I mean, it was just great defense. I think this whole series from both sides, surprisingly. The one thing I'm still upset is that Giannis's Euro should stop because it's not a Euro when you do it 2 feet before the defender comes up to you. It's too predictable. But I think I enjoyed facilitating Giannis the most. I think like point guard Giannis was really fun. I think it was like Game 5 where just like Chris Middleton started popping off because Giannis would just drive and just dish it out and he's wide open. Because Giannis was going to be double teamed every time in the paint, and then they finally realized, hey, get Chris Middleton into this. Overall fun series. What do we think Brooklyn has to do next, or is going to do next? Spencer Dinwiddie declines option. I know he wasn't going to stay there, obviously, with the declining rule. But is Brooklyn missing anything, or did they just need health and running back?
They need a good defensive big.
Andre Jordan? I mean, he was on the bench.
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't think that for most teams, losing Spencer Dinwiddie would be like a problem, and I think for this team, it doesn't even matter. There wasn't really a role for him there at this point. What they need is just like some competent defensive players, a nice, like, decent two-way big to join the rotation would be great. Blake, if they can re-sign him, honestly might be worth keeping. He was really good in the playoffs a handful of times. And, like, maybe another defensive wing, too, to help KD out, ease his load. Because he was their best defender. Like, and he was really good, but, like, if you can take some of that work away from him, you guys are going to be literally unstoppable. You have all the floor spacing you need with Kyrie Irving, James Harden, and Kevin Durant on the floor. So, like, figure out the parts around that, and you're going to be pretty much, like, the world's your oyster. So, yeah, I think they'll figure it out with, like, a lot of cheap vets that are just like, I would like an easy ring, thank you, and then they'll be fine. The Lakers are going to be their competition for this summer of just, like, retooling around a team that probably would have been in the finals if not for injuries.
Agreed. The team does remind me of the Miami Heat before. I mean, obviously, I think the skill sets are a little similar with this Nets roster. Just in terms of just their scoring power is mostly in deeper shots. But we did see it with KD driving. I mean, also, everyone said the mid-range is gone, but these superstars just make the mid-range like the greatest shot to ever come about. Like the KD mid-range, you actually cannot stop. It reminds me of like the Dirk Nowitzki one-legged fadeaway at this point, where you just can't stop the shot. Like he's gonna make it. Like don't even play. At this point,
KD's post game was also good. And KD, every time he caught Drew Holiday in the post, it was just like a murder. It was like
we're just cooking here. But like you said, they need some sort of veteran presence in terms of defense, and maybe it's like they need to find someone that's similar, like to a Rashard Lewis, who was washed up and just wanted the ring, or Shane Battier or someone like that.
That'd be great.
PJ
Tucker.
Tucker. I mean, hey, you never know. I mean, I thought PJ Tucker was going to get there, but we saw how high PJ was beating James Harden, beating the Nets. Getting his shot back. For another title run. Kevin and John, let's just do a conference finals talk. I mean, I don't even want to talk about Hawks and Sixers because we know who the winner is. I should have bought my jersey, but it's Hawks in 7. Do we agree, disagree here? I mean, we should make it clear at this point. Don't say Ben Simmons can score. Don't stop it.
He can't. Ben Simmons is going to get traded next year, I think, for sure. Doc Rivers is the collapse king, and that's what's making it really hard for me. Like, in my brain, I'm like, it's got to be the Sixers. Joel Embiid is the best player on both of these teams. It's got to be the Sixers. But, man, I don't know. I feel like I'm going to look like a chump for it. But I'm going to take the Sixers for the purpose of this, even though I know Doc Rivers, all he does is collapse in the playoffs. after that Boston ring. He can't help himself, unfortunately. But I'm going to take the Sixers. I just can't. I don't know. I just can't. I don't. I'm doing it. I'm locking it in.
Look at that. Look. You know, the opinion rate doesn't matter because it's a Lucas stand, right? I mean, they had to go against Trae Young.
That is also I can't handle the internet going and talking about how Trae Young's better than Luka because he took his team to the conference finals. I know that if Luka was on that team, they would be in the finals. So I think that.
All right, Kevin, as a most unbiased opinion, that still might prefer a Laker in the finals at this point. Who you got? Who you got?
I think it's tough. I think it'll be a really good game tonight, but I think I gotta go Hawks. I think Doc Rivers is the exploding king. But I think the Hawks. It feels like to me the Hawks just want it more, and they've been fighting tooth and nail, and they're gonna come out tonight, especially being like, this is our last chance to prove ourselves and prove that we are way better than everyone gave us credit for, and shut down the Sixers. And that I think if they do that, that team will go down in history, and that is exactly what they want. I think Embiid and Simmons are great. I think the Sixers are a phenomenal team this year. And I wouldn't be surprised if they pull it out, but I got to go with Hawks. Got to lock that in. But yeah, I think it'll be a good game regardless.
Hey,
I hope so.
Yeah, it's not going to be a good game because Hawks going to be murdering Philly. Right? Independence Day is over in Philadelphia. Ben Simmons will be gone for his lackluster offensive presence, which is so disappointing. Like, the guy has it, he just won't do it. Like, it's just like stubbornness at this point, and it's just annoying. Like, it's just like not fun watching him because he doesn't want to try at basketball.
He's got to go somewhere.
He's got to go. Who says no? Ben Simmons and 3 first-round picks and Tyrese Maxey and Seth Curry, all to Dallas to bring Luka Doncic.
I'll say that Dallas is gonna say no, but yeah, that'd be. I mean, yeah. I would love to see Luka play with Joel Embiid.
You know, let's let Daryl do his magic come off season. You know, Daryl can't handle like 30 minutes of losing and without a big change, so we'll have to see what he does. Conference finals predictions. Does any of us say not the Bucks being in the finals?
I think the Bucks are going to the finals. I do.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I got nothing to say there. I mean, Bucks. I mean, they beat the best team. I think the best team in the East, at least.
Yeah.
Sure, they were injured, but I mean, they still put up like the best performance we've ever seen by an individual player with KD, and still with the proper mix of vets as well, with the Blake Griffin resurgence, even Jeff Green. Like, I mean, the dude was balling out like crazy as well, and I mean, the Bucks proved it. They proved that they deserve to be here, and they basically said, you know, I'm hoping for my boy Bogey and the Bucks to meet up. Like, this would be the perfect like.
That would be pretty fun.
It'd be phenomenal to see this. But if it's Bucks and whoever it is, are we saying Bucks sweep?
I'm not saying a sweep. I think that the Eastern Conference Finals might be a longer series than the West. Again, dependent on Kawhi's health. But if Kawhi does have to miss that whole series, I think Suns in 5. I stick with what I said earlier. And then Eastern Conference Finals, if it's the Hawks, I think the Bucks win in 5. And if it's the Sixers, I think they win in 6.
Okay. Kevin, thoughts?
I second that opinion 100%. I think that's exactly what I had in mind. I think the Bucks will have an easier time with the Hawks. I think they could struggle with the Sixers initially, but I think regardless, the Bucks are the better team in that conference, and the Suns are the better team in the West. Like, I think it's really, really looking like Bucks and Suns right now, unless there is some big upset.
Okay. I mean, I think the Bucks is going to be easy against Philly and not against Atlanta, and that's just not by pure bias. I just think that it's really hard to stop this unpredictable Suns roster or Atlanta Hawks roster. I mean, it's working out really well with this Clint Capella nonsense that's happening. I mean, like, it's not even a pick and roll at this point, but it's more of like a secondary points. As much as they have shooters, if they miss it, Clint Capella is going to get the board, dish it back out, and we're just running it back again.
Let me also just point out, though, that let's not forget. I think it's a few years back now, but let's not forget what Drew Holiday did to Damian Lillard in the playoffs before. Drew literally completely shut down Damian Lillard in a playoff series before. And Trae Young, as great as he is no Damian Lillard at the moment. And so that's just what I think is that, like, that matchup, especially with how small Trae is, it could be a real problem for the Hawks. I think Drew is like, this is probably the series where Drew has been most like waiting to get to show what he's made of, because they haven't really had. Because who did they play round one? They played the Heat. Yeah, and they locked them up. But there wasn't really like a great point guard matchup for Drew in these playoffs, because Kyrie got hurt, Harden was on one leg. This is his moment to show himself. I think he's gonna. If it were to come to the Hawks series, that's just
All right, okay. I'm just saying Ben Simmons can't even lock down this man. We thought he was the best defender. He's getting past him in the paint. I'm just saying,
That's true.
I just think Trae deserves a little bit more respect now. I think he received some provenness as the greatest. No, I'm just kidding. He's not the greatest player.
Trae's awesome. Trae's awesome.
I mean, I think he's really riding the chip on the shoulder. No All-Star selection, no All-NBA selection. I think he's rubbing with that. We'll get into that in the next episode, but I feel for him, and I think he's showing us here that I know, sure, he played the Knicks, but I mean, I don't think anyone thought Atlanta would be like very competent team, with the whole coach firing and then Nate McMillan stepping in and, the team coming together. I mean, it really is like a good team, I think. I actually enjoy watching the Hawks play in a lot of cases, but we'll have to see. Last thing to end this episode, finals matchup, Bucks-Suns. Who do we got?
Kevin could go first.
That's a tough one. I think I'm gonna lean towards Suns, probably, to be honest. I know that's surprising, but I think if Chris Paul's back and healthy and everyone's healthy on that team, I think the Suns are the better team.
Mm-hmm. Okay. What are we feeling, John? He's conflicted. His knees are weak.
It's because they are. The Bucks have the best player, but I do think that the Suns are a better team, and fuck. I will take. Man, this is so tough. I'm gonna take the Suns. I think. And I think it's gonna be really close. But they're just rolling. Like, they just seem so in sync. And like, as much as I'm sure, like, I don't know. I gotta take the Suns. I think so.
I'm gonna mix it up. I was thinking Suns too, but I was like, I don't know. The Bucks riding off this big win against the Nets, and then potentially, if it's a Philly team, like, you beat the two teams above you. That's what you did right now, and that's quite impressive. We didn't think that Drew Holiday's addition would be as impactful, but I mean, realistically, it wasn't as like drastically of a bump for them, in my opinion. I mean, I just think it came down to just running it back again and again, and then hoping this works. And it's worked. Like, I mean, they beat the better teams in the playoffs, and I don't think it'll be Suns in 4 in this one. I think it will be Bucks in 7. I mean, I can't really imagine it a better way. It really will come down to either Chris Paul pointing at the refs and saying, call a technical foul, or, Giannis being 50% from free throw. I think it'll come to something very small in this case, because I think both teams are skilled in so many different ways that I think they can still counter each other well enough, and it'll just come down to a couple made baskets from, a CP3 or, Chris Middleton with a game winner or something like that. So I'll get Bucks. With that being said, Kevin, wrap this show up, please.
Thank you guys for listening to us
So
ramble
sad.
about.
Why you sound so sad? You're like, you want to talk more? We can talk more, man. You know.
All right,
Just
let's go. Let's
okay.
keep going. No.
Hey, yeah, we got another episode. Don't worry, I got you. Don't worry, we got another
Thank you
episode.
guys for listening to us ramble about the playoffs. We appreciate your listens. If you're still listening to this point, respect. You can follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Email us at the d3pod@gmail.com. I post some memes on Instagram a couple times a week. We are on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you can get your podcasts, Anchor, to other stuff. I don't know. Yeah, thanks for listening.
Bucks and six.